What if your thoughts weren't just passing clouds, but sacred signals shaping the very fabric of your life? Tonight, we enter a soft, unseen world where your quietest perceptions create the loudest outcomes. Let the noise fall away as you rest into this slow unfolding. Maybe you're in bed now, lights dimmed, or sitting alone in a peaceful corner of your day. Wherever you are, take a breath. You found the story you are meant to hear tonight. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you'll always have a doorway back to this space. Tell us in the comments, where are you listening from right now? What time of night? Now, close your eyes. Let's drift inward. You're about to witness a truth so subtle, most never notice it. You don't live inside reality, you tune into it, and what you observe with emotion and presence begins to form. This is the soft power of attention, the still magic of frequency. You are not just watching your world, you are helping it take shape, quietly, exactly as you are. There is a kind of seeing that goes beyond the eyes, a gaze that doesn't just receive the world, but gently shapes it. Beneath your daily thoughts, your plans, your worries, there's an ancient rhythm, one that you've been part of all along, even if you've forgotten. This rhythm doesn't respond to your effort. It doesn't listen to your logic. It tunes itself to the subtle signature of your presence, your frequency. What if the reality you experience is not what's simply there, but what you're calibrated to notice? Not because you're broken, not because you're behind, but because you've never been told that you're not merely a witness to life. You are a silent architect of it. Quietly, patiently, your attention carves the contours of the day. And the field, the unseen potentiality that waits in every moment, listens to what you hold, not just in thought, but in feeling. Let's slow everything down for a moment. Forget trying to figure it out. Forget trying to improve. Imagine that your breath is the real beginning of change, not because it does anything to the world, but because it brings you back to yourself. Feel it now, that inhale, that exhale. What you're doing, in truth, is aligning. And alignment doesn't shout. It hums, quietly. It's the soft choice to return to what is real, underneath what is loud. And from that soft place, something powerful begins to unfold. You stop reacting to life and start participating in its shaping, but not with force, not with hustle, with observation, with coherence, with frequency. This might sound like poetry, but it's physics. In the quantum world, particles don't exist in one place until they are observed. They shimmer in probabilities, waiting. It's the act of observation that collapses the wave into a particular form. In other words, the universe responds not to action alone, but to perception. Your attention, when held with consistency and emotion, is a tuning fork. It selects one outcome from many, not by accident, not by luck, but by resonance. This isn't metaphor, it's measurement. The quantum field mirrors not what you want, but what you stabilize. And here is where it becomes deeply human. Because you already know this. You felt it. The moment you truly believed you were unwanted, how everything in the world seemed to echo that belief. The moments you felt hopeful, how possibility felt closer, how even the air tasted different. These weren't coincidences. They were collapses. Momentary crystallizations of the unseen into the seen. And your observer, your inner witness, was at the center of it all. This isn't about blame. It's about realization. It's about understanding the sacred role of your gaze. Every time you wake and replay a worry, you're not just remembering, you're reinforcing. Every time you assume disappointment, you don't just brace for it, you invite it to take form. But the reverse is also true. Every time you soften into trust, every time you lean into presence, the field begins to tilt ever so slightly in your favor, because it responds to the tone of your being, not the noise of your doing. Feel into this now. Take a memory, a recent one where something small went wrong, something that irritated you, unsettled you. Notice how quickly your body and thoughts aligned with that discomfort, how it became easy to expect more misalignment. Now imagine if, instead, you had paused, not to force gratitude, not to deny your emotion, but to simply notice the energy, without becoming it, to observe the moment as information, not identity. What might have shifted? This is the art of the conscious observer. And it's not about perfection. It's about precision. You don't need to fix your thoughts. You only need to notice what they're building. Every recurring story you tell yourself is a vote, not for truth, but for reality. And reality is loyal. It doesn't discriminate. It reflects. Let's go deeper now, because something stranger lies beneath this. Have you ever felt a sudden shift in your world without understanding why? Like something unseen just nudged reality, and everything became a little clearer or heavier. These aren't just mood swings. These are shifts in resonance. You tuned, without knowing it, to a different channel of the field. Sometimes this happens through music, or memory, or even sleep. And when it does, the contents of your day start to echo that new vibration. People respond differently. Ideas arrive, or silence deepens. This is not magic. This is mechanics. You are, in essence, a translator of frequency, not through words, but through emotional signal. And the more consistent the signal, the clearer the translation. This is why desperation scrambles the field, why frantic effort often leads to collapse. The field isn't listening to your need, it's listening to your signal. And your signal is clearest when it is calm, coherent, and routed, in a vision that doesn't beg but breathes. This is why some people seem to magnetize experiences. Not because they're better, not because they're special, but because their internal world is not at war with itself. Their observer has learned to stabilize a state long enough for the external to respond. And again, this isn't instant. It's not always linear, but it is faithful. The field listens deeply to consistency, to repetition, to the story you tell when no one else can hear it. Now, ask yourself gently, what story have you been broadcasting on repeat? Not the words, the feeling beneath them. What emotions do you fall asleep to? What expectations whisper beneath your confidence? This is not about shaming yourself. This is about seeing clearly, because you cannot shift what you will not witness. Pause. Hear with me. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath. And imagine this. What if the next thing to show up in your life isn't random at all, but the echo of the state you're in right now? Would you hold yourself differently? Would you choose a thought that aligns with peace rather than fear? Would you steady your posture in expectation of something kind? These small inner choices are not small at all. They are movements of energy. And energy, when focused, shapes matter. The mirror doesn't crack when you scowl, but the reflection shifts, slowly, precisely, powerfully. We must unlearn the myth of separation, that life is out there. That change begins later. That healing must be earned. Your internal world is not a private theater. It is a broadcast tower. What you practice within becomes the landscape without. And the more you learn to observe from a place of possibility, the more the improbable becomes visible. Let's speak. Honestly now, you've tried hard. You've read books, set goals, made vision boards. And still, some parts of your life feel like they resist change. Why? Not because you're blocked, not because you're cursed, but because part of you is still observing from the same channel, the same emotional frequency that created what you want to escape. This is not failure, it's inertia. And inertia isn't brokenness, it's just repetition. It's just an old story still being told through your nervous system. But what if you became still enough to hear a new story, one that isn't based on trauma or lack or inherited survival patterns, one that speaks from the future, not as fantasy, but as blueprint. The field can feel the difference, and so can you. You've had glimpses, moments where you felt aligned, where time slowed, where your chest felt open and life seemed to meet you. Those weren't accidents. They were evidence of what happens when your observer rests in coherence. And here is the softest truth of all. You don't need to chase anything. You only need to become more loyal to the version of you who already feels what you seek, not as performance, but as frequency. The moment you understand that your perception is not passive but creative, something ancient begins to stir within you. Not the drive to do more, but the invitation to see differently. Because perception, when held with awareness, is not just a lens, it's a lever. And when you start using that lever with softness and intention, your inner world begins to organize itself around coherence. This is not a miracle. It is not wishful thinking. It is vibrational geometry. And you are already participating in it. Think of the last time something unexpected happened, something that aligned with a wish, a quiet desire you hadn't even spoken aloud. Maybe you chalked it up to coincidence. But what if that moment was the result of unseen alignments already unfolding, drawn forward by the quiet stability of your inner field? When you dwell in a state consistently enough, it becomes magnetic, even if your words say otherwise, even if your doubts remain. What the field hears is not your surface thoughts. It listens to your practiced emotional tone, the one you carry. In silence, in dreams, in reflex, you don't need to convince the universe of your worthiness. You only need to stop rehearsing the opposite. You don't need to earn your future. You just need to become emotionally fluent in it before it arrives. That's the paradox. You don't attract what you're trying to feel. You attract what you've already become emotionally familiar with. So how do you change the signal? Not by fighting your thoughts, not by declaring war on your past, but by interrupting the loop softly, gently, like a hand placed on a spinning top to slow it. Start by noticing what you repeat, what you expect, what you silently assume before events even unfold. These are your practiced frequencies. And when you observe them without judgment, something miraculous happens. They begin to soften. They begin to loosen their grip. This is the doorway into vibrational literacy, the subtle, sacred language of your internal state. And you don't need years of study to learn it. You only need to pay attention to how life feels, beneath how it looks. You begin to discern when your thoughts are riding on the back of fear rather than truth. You notice when your confidence is actually just urgency in disguise. You sense when your hope is brittle, because it's trying to outrun disappointment rather than birth something new. The more you observe, the more you choose, not with force, but with fidelity. You begin to build a new signal, not by pretending you're already healed or abundant, but by becoming deeply present with the feeling of what if? What if I'm safe? What if I'm guided? What if I'm enough right now? These questions aren't answers. They are tuning forks, and the field responds to the openness they create. Let's imagine for a moment that your life is a projection, not as a metaphor, but quite literally. That what appears outside is a holographic reflection of what you consistently hold inside. What if that annoying coworker, that financial delay, that repeated silence from the universe, isn't evidence of failure, but of an echo you haven't yet interrupted? What if it's not showing you reality, but mirroring your inner broadcast? This is not blame. It's creative responsibility. You are not creating every detail of your life from conscious thought, but you are shaping its filter. You are selecting from infinite timelines every time you stabilize a state. A version of you who feels abandoned will always walk into rooms that seem colder. The version of you who feels chosen begins to see invitations you missed before. Reality bends quietly around your state, not as a reward or punishment, but as a match. So now, ask gently, who have I been observing as myself? Have I been watching my life from the eyes of a child still waiting to be rescued? From the stance of a survivor always scanning for threat? From the habits of someone still carrying stories that no longer reflect the truth? Because here's the quiet miracle. The moment you observe differently, the field shifts, not always instantly, but always. Reality listens to subtle consistency more than dramatic change. You don't have to scream a new belief. You only have to whisper it every day, not to the world, but to yourself, until it begins to hum beneath everything. Let's ground this now, not just in theory, but in practice. Imagine waking up tomorrow, morning and pausing, before checking your phone, before naming your worries, before climbing back into your old self. You lie there and observe the morning not as something to fix, but something to receive. You feel into your body, not to criticize it, but to thank it. You ask yourself not, what do I need to do? But what frequency do I wish to carry? That question alone starts to tune the field. You move slowly. You speak less urgently. You breathe more deliberately. And though nothing may seem to change around you, something already has. Because your signal is different. Your observer has softened. Now take that into your day. Walk into the same spaces with new awareness. Notice what wants to hook you back into an old identity and pause. Not to suppress, but to see clearly. You begin to recognize that every complaint is a spell, every assumption a prediction, and every return to presence a resurrection. You are not trying to become someone else. You are returning to the version of you that already holds what you seek, not in her hands, but in her gaze. She sees the same world, but interprets it differently. She walks slower, speaks kinder. She doesn't rush, because she knows the field responds not to panic, but to precision. And the more you let her watch your life, the more life starts to change. Not all at once, but rhythmically, faithfully, because she is broadcasting from a place the field can recognize. A place that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't collapse. She observes, she stabilizes, she receives. This isn't about bypassing pain or ignoring hardship. It's about learning how to walk through them with a different signal. The pain doesn't disappear, but your relationship to it does. You become the witness, not the wound, the composer, not the chord. And in that soft sovereignty, new timelines emerge. Timelines where ease is normal, where opportunities arrive, not because you hustled, but because you tuned. Timelines where your body stops bracing for disappointment, where your dreams stop feeling like delusions, where you don't need to prove your worth because it's already woven into your frequency. And even when doubt comes, because it will, you no longer collapse. You no longer scramble. You notice. You breathe. You return. Again and again. Because mastery is not a permanent state. It's a practiced return. And so the practice becomes this. Observe with softness. Speak with alignment. Choose thoughts that feel like home to the version of you who has already arrived. Every time you do, you become more fluent in a new future. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became still enough to hear it calling. And the field, faithful as ever, begins to respond. There comes a moment quiet, unremarkable to the outside world, when you realize you're no longer fighting with reality. You're no longer bargaining with the mirror. You've stopped insisting that life explain itself to you, and instead, you've begun listening to the way it reflects your own signal. This moment doesn't feel like victory. It feels like relief. Not because anything dramatic has shifted yet, but because you finally have. You begin to sense it in small ways. A soft spaciousness in your chest, a gentler interpretation of someone's silence, a sudden moment of beauty that you allow yourself to receive without suspicion. These subtle cues aren't distractions. They are alignments. Your observer has changed position. And now, the field is adjusting its echo. You don't need to know how everything will unfold. That's the old reflex. The old observer who mistrusts the unknown. The new frequency does not require a roadmap. It requires presence. And presence is not passivity, it's precision. It is the subtle art of becoming so attuned to your emotional resonance that you can feel when you are in coherence and when you are not. Not as judgment, as feedback. Like a singer hearing when the note drifts out of key, not with shame, but with self-awareness. And in that noticing, the tuning begins again. You may begin to notice something unusual. Your outer world once filled with resistance, friction, or delay starts to soften. Not because you've micromanaged it, but because your inner world no longer vibrates with distrust. You are, perhaps for the first time, broadcasting a signal that matches your desired timeline, not through effort, but through remembering. You remember that peace is not the end goal, it is the starting frequency. You remember that safety is not the prize of success, it is the foundation from which aligned success emerges. And so, with every gentle return to this knowing, the field rearranges. Some days will test this. You'll wake up and feel heavy, or irritated, or unsure. The old timeline will knock on the door of your nervous system, wearing the face of urgency or disappointment. And yet, you do not collapse. You breathe. You witness. You observe not just the trigger, but your relationship to it. And from this place of expanded presence, you make a new choice. You remember, the field does not punish you for your fluctuations. It simply mirrors what you stabilize. And you can always return. There's a deeper layer now, one you've always sensed, but maybe didn't have words for. It's the knowing that you don't need to constantly do in order to become. That your true power lies not in how well you perform the rituals of growth, but in how consistently you embody the frequency of the life you desire. Embodiment is not a performance, it's a signal. And signals, once clear, begin to call things to you. You've seen this in strange, intimate moments. When someone tells you they thought of you just before calling. When the song you needed appears in a silent room. When the path opens just enough to take the next step. These aren't accidents, they're resonance. They are the field reflecting back your quiet coherence. You've become a tuning fork, and the music is beginning to respond. The quantum field does not respond to your potential. It responds to your pattern. This is not criticism, it's an invitation. You are always eligible for miracles, but you must become receptive enough to recognize them when they appear. And receptivity is not a state of waiting, it is a posture of openness. You cannot receive while bracing. You cannot welcome while arguing with what is. You must relax not into complacency, but into clarity. This is where the practice deepens. Where you stop chasing what's already yours. Where you stop broadcasting confusion and calling it curiosity. Where you stop pretending. That fear is humility. You stand still not because you've given up, but because you've finally tuned in. And in that stillness, the signal becomes unmistakable. Now, life begins to feel different. Subtle, but unmistakable. The right people stay longer. The right opportunities feel more like recognition than luck. The right decisions carry no anxiety only. Alignment. This isn't magic. It's mechanical. You've collapsed into a new timeline. Not by force, but by frequency. You've stopped trying to prove yourself to the world. You've begun revealing yourself to it. That's what happens when the observer stabilizes. The mask drops. The posturing dissolves. And the truth, unadorned, unprovoked, unafraid begins to radiate from your being. You become someone who doesn't just hope for peace, you generate it. Someone who doesn't just visualize freedom, they embody it. Someone who doesn't just believe in possibility, they observe it into form. There's a softness to this state. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's often overlooked by those who still believe power must be visible. But you've come to know better. You've felt what it means to be magnetic in silence, to hold a frequency so coherent that reality cannot help but respond. You've also learned not to chase signs, not because they aren't real, but because you no longer need confirmation. When you live from knowing, signs become celebrations, not instructions. You don't wait for proof, you become it. And in doing so, you release the tension of doubt. You let go of the need to convince yourself. You've seen enough. You've felt enough. You've become enough. Let's return now gently to the image of you standing in your life as it is. No future projection, no imagined scenario. Just now, this moment. What are you observing? What version of yourself are you choosing to stabilize? What timeline are you feeding? Not with effort, but with gaze. Because the field is listening, not to your hustle, but to your holding, not to your wants, but to your witness. You are no longer trying to make it happen. You are allowing yourself to become the version of you who naturally draws it forth. You're not seeking control. You're creating conditions. You are shifting the climate of your inner world and watching the seasons of your life begin to change accordingly. You begin to understand that peace is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of alignment. That clarity doesn't mean you know the outcome. It means you know yourself. And when you know yourself deeply, quietly, truly, you stop negotiating with fear. You stop bargaining with doubt. You simply observe, and in your observation, the world begins to change. This is the gift of becoming the witness. Not a passive watcher, but an active participant in the creation of form. You don't manipulate the quantum field. You meet it. You align with it. You soften into it like a river meeting the sea, not because you know the direction, but because you trust the current within you. There is nothing more to earn, no final step to climb. Only the next breath. Only the next choice to tune yourself to a future that is already whispering your name. It has always been this way. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are broadcasting. Right now, and that signal is shaping what comes next, So choose it with love, choose it with patience. Choose it with the grace of someone who has remembered that their attention is sacred. Your gaze is not neutral. It is holy. It selects timelines. It rearranges matter. It calls reality into being. Let this be your moment of return. To the frequency that feels like home. To the version of you that no longer waits. To the future that has always been listening. There is a threshold you cross, not with fanfare or sudden lightning, but with a breath so quiet, most miss its power. It happens not when your outer life transforms, but when your inner observer no longer returns to the same default story. You begin to notice this shift not in events, but in perception. The same delay doesn't cause panic. The same silence doesn't feel like rejection. The same unknown doesn't ignite dread. Why? Because your frequency has changed. And in the quantum fabric of reality, that is the true currency of transformation. You've spent years, maybe decades, trying to change what you could see. But now, you are learning to change what you are being. And that is the inversion that reorders your world. You stop seeking signs and start becoming them. You stop waiting for evidence and begin living as if it's already true. Because vibrationally, it is. When you embody a signal consistently, the universe doesn't ask for justification. It simply reflects. The mirror doesn't argue. It aligns. And your life begins to echo not your intentions, but your inner atmosphere. The strange thing is, this happens quietly. Others may not notice. They may see your stillness as idleness, your peace as passivity. But you know better. Because you can feel what's rearranging beneath the surface. You don't need to convince anyone anymore, not even yourself. That exhausting loop of proving, persuading, performing, it softens. What replaces it is a quiet knowing that your state of being is a declaration more powerful than any affirmation ever spoken aloud. You become a living signal, and the signal draws what matches it. This is the unseen physics of faith, not belief in something outside yourself, but trust in your own resonance. And this faith isn't loud. It doesn't stomp or plead. It simply stays, even when the old reality still echoes. Even when the outer world hasn't caught up. You hold the signal, not because you're trying to manipulate the timeline, but because you've decided to remember who you are. Who are you? You are the one who observes. You are the one who tunes. You are the one who collapses the wave into form, not through pressure, but through presence. And you've done it before. That moment you felt it was going to be okay, and somehow it was. That time you knew a door would open, and it did. The shift didn't come because of effort. It came because your emotional frequency outpaced your fear. Let's speak plainly now. You will still face challenges. The world won't suddenly become frictionless. But your relationship to the friction will change. You will stop bracing against life and begin breathing into it. You'll begin to trust that every delay is an invitation. Every trigger is a window. Every silence is a chance to choose your own signal instead of echoing what's missing. And as this becomes your practice, something even deeper emerges. You start to live from your future self, not your history. You begin to sense the emotional signature of the life you've longed for. And you don't just visit it, you dwell in it. You practice joy before it has a reason. You feel abundance before the balance changes. You embody love before the evidence appears. Not because you're pretending, but because you've remembered how creation works. You realize that reality does not precede emotion. Emotion precedes reality. You are not reacting. You are selecting every time you feel peace before the problem is solved. You are training the field to match peace instead of panic. Every time you choose rest when urgency knocks, you are declaring sovereignty. Every time you observe from trust instead of doubt, you collapse a new timeline into place. And so, the work becomes simple, not easy, but simple. Stay with the frequency of what you wish to live. Not as a performance, as a prayer. A quiet, steady hum of coherence that begins to shape your experience without needing permission. Even when the world is noisy, your inner signal can be still. Even when the outcome is unclear, your posture can ping. Remain open. Even when the evidence is slow, your gaze can remain faithful. Because this is not about what happens. It's about what you hold. Let's walk through this for a moment. Imagine a day where nothing goes right. You spill your coffee. The email doesn't come. The delay stretches longer. The feedback is not what you hoped for. In the past, this would have meant collapse, spiral, reinforcement of an old belief. See, it's not working. But today, something different occurs. You pause, you breathe, you feel the old frequency rise, and you witness it without merging with it. You become the silent watcher, not the reactive child. You don't suppress the emotion. You observe it. And in doing so, you disempower the timeline that used to claim you. This is the sacred pivot. Not denial, not fate, POSITIVIDY. Just sovereign observation. And from this place, you choose. You return to the emotional tone of the life you are living. Into, not out of fantasy, but out of fidelity to your signal. You carry the weight, not of the world's reaction, but of your own alignment. And slowly, like a compass adjusting to true north, the day begins to follow suit. You are no longer at the mercy of reality. You are informing it. Now imagine this becoming your norm, not perfection. Not constant high vibes, but consistent awareness. You wake each morning not asking what will go wrong, but wondering what part of your signal wants to be sharpened. You greet challenges as thresholds, not punishments. You stop measuring your value by outcomes. Instead, you start measuring it by how faithfully you remain in resonance with what you've chosen to believe, and you begin to notice the ripple effect. People respond differently. You get asked into rooms you used to feel invisible in. Ideas arrive that seem like whispers from another version of you. Time opens, pressure recedes. This isn't coincidence. This is coherence. You've stabilized a signal long enough for the outer world to catch up. And when it does, you're not surprised. You're grateful, but not shocked, because you knew this would happen. You didn't know how, but you knew it would. That is the mark of an aligned observer, not certainty of form, but certainty of frequency. And here's the most radical part. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone, because your life becomes your quiet proof. You no longer post from urgency. You no longer explain your path. You walk it. You live it. You embody it. And those who are meant to meet you on this frequency will not because you reached for them, but because you remained in tune. Become a lighthouse, not chasing ships, but holding your light steady until those aligned come into view. This is the deeper invitation of the observer's frequency, not just to shape your world, but to become a point of resonance for the world around you. Your family notices. Your friends soften. Your community begins to shift, not because you told them to, but because you chose to become. Coherence in a world built on static. This is how quiet change happens. This is how timelines collapse. This is how impossible lives become inevitable. Not through hustle, not through noise, but through frequency. Through the eyes you choose to see from. Through the emotions you choose to stabilize. Through the world you choose to witness into being again. And again, let it be this simple. Let it be this soft. Let it be this steady. Your future is not waiting. It is vibrating. And your attention is the dial. There is something profoundly sacred about the shift from effort to alignment. It's not visible to the outside world. No medals are given for it. No crowds gather to applaud it. And yet, it is the axis upon which your entire life turns. At some point, softly, almost imperceptibly, you stop trying to earn the future and begin preparing to receive it. Not by proving yourself, not by demanding results, but by clearing the static from your frequency so that your signal can finally be heard. You may begin to sense it in small ways. You no longer need the outcome to justify your hope. You no longer spiral when things take time. You feel less tempted to abandon your peace in exchange for temporary control. These are not minor shifts. These are markers of mastery. Because true power isn't loud, it's precise. And your precision is beginning to hum through the field. The quantum field responds not to your ambition, but to your emotional coherence. Not to the intensity of your desire, but to the steadiness of your belief. When you desire with desperation, you signal lack. When you desire with reverence, you signal readiness. That is the key. Not how badly you want it, but how gently you are willing to hold it. And that gentleness, that quiet trust, begins to rewire the way reality interacts with you. Not because you have figured it all out, but because you finally softened your resistance to what already wants to find you. You've stopped being the seeker. You've started being the signal, and the signal doesn't chase. It resonates. This is why the same actions from different frequencies yield wildly different results. A conversation initiated from anxiety creates distance, but from presence, it creates connection. An idea launched from scarcity feels like a scream, but from alignment, it feels like a song. You are not defined by what you do, but by the frequency from which you do it. So now you begin to ask new kind of question, not what should I do, but who am I being while I do it? That question leads to everything, because being is the origin point. Your state of being is the soil from which all things grow. If you plant seeds of intention in dry, desperate soil, they struggle. But when your frequency is hydrated with trust, softened with presence, the seeds bloom with grace. This is what you're learning now, not how to force reality, but how to prepare your field. And that preparation is not loud. It's internal. It's the decision to get emotionally fluent in the version of you who already lives the life you long for. That version isn't waiting in the future. They're here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for your attention to stabilize them into form. Let's explore them now. Close your eyes for a moment, not as a ritual, but as a return. Picture the version of you who no longer seeks permission to feel joy, who walks with grounded ease, who trusts their voice, their pace, their timing. What does their frequency feel like? Not their possessions or their accomplishments, but their tone. Can you hear how they speak to themselves? Can you feel how they sit with uncertainty? Now breathe into that version of you, not to reach them, but to remember you've never left. That version is not a goal. It's a state, and the state is available the moment you choose to return to it. This is the revolution, hidden in simplicity. Nothing outside needs to change before you do. You've spent enough time rehearsing limitation. Now you are learning to rehearse freedom, not by pretending you're already there, but by slowly, gently practicing what it feels like to belong to your life again. You return to the breath, not to escape, but to align. You return to the body, not to control, but to inhabit. You return to the moment, not to fix it, but to meet it. And the moment, faithfully, begins to soften around you. The world does not need to change for you to begin witnessing differently. And the act of witnessing truly. Witnessing releases the grip of the old story. Because you can't fully observe something and be unconsciously ruled by it. At the same time, this is why the observer is so powerful. It breaks the loop. Ends. The trance. It dissolves the echo. You begin to walk through your day differently now. You notice where urgency arises, and instead of feeding it, you breathe. You feel the impulse to prove yourself, and instead of reacting, you pause. You catch the old inner voice trying to narrate your unworthiness, and instead of arguing, you smile. You've heard this story before, but you're not telling it anymore. You've become the observer, not the echo, the composer, not the chaos. And this, quietly, changes everything. You don't need the world to validate your new state. You've realized that the field doesn't reward performance. It rewards precision. And your precision is sharpening. You know when you're aligned because it feels like a soft exhale. You know when you've wandered off frequency because your body tightens, your thoughts race, your breath becomes shallow. And instead of spiraling, you return. Again and again and again. Not because you're failing, but because you're practicing. Mastery is not a finish line. It's a rhythm, and you're beginning to move in time with the frequency of your own becoming. You feel less urgency now to get it right. Less panic when things don't unfold as expected. Because you've stopped measuring your progress by outcomes. You're measuring it by alignment. And alignment is emotional, energetic, subtle. It's the decision to feel whole before the evidence arrives. It's the willingness to enjoy the journey without using pain as proof of growth. It's the ability to stay soft in a world that prizes hardness. And softness, it turns out, is magnetic. This is the paradox. When you no longer need the future to relieve you of your present, the future arrives more freely, because the field does not respond to pressure. It responds to coherence. And coherence can only emerge when you stop betraying your own signal to please, to prove, to perform. You have nothing to prove. You are not behind. You are broadcasting every moment. You remain in resonance with your truth. Even when no one else sees it, you are collapsing new possibilities into form. You may not see it immediately, but reality is not slow. It is sacred. It is waiting for your signal to stabilize. And now, finally, it is. Because you're no longer trying to manifest a different life from the frequency of self-doubt. You're remembering that every breath, every gaze, every gentle return to presence is a creative act. You are sculpting the timeline not with your hands, but with your attention. You are tuning into the life that already exists in potential and pulling it closer with every moment you remain loyal to it. This is not magic. It is mechanics. This is not luck. It is law. This is not delusion. It is devotion. So, let the outer world catch up. Let the timeline arrive on its own terms. You are already becoming. You are already aligned. You are already broadcasting. A frequency that reality cannot ignore. Stay there. Let it steady you. Let it carry you. And let everything else begin to move around the signal that no longer wavers. You've chosen. You've returned. You've become. There is a silence beneath all thought, beneath all movement, beneath even the stories you tell yourself in the quiet of your mind. It is not emptiness. It is not absence. It is the most potent presence there is, the place where all creation begins, the wellspring from which frequency emerges. And when you begin to live from that silence, when you start to observe your life from that still center, rather than the scattered edges of survival, you feel something ancient stir within you. Not ambition, not urgency, but recognition. You? Remember not just who you are, but how reality has always worked. Attention is sacred. That perception is permission. That what you bless with your gaze begins to take form. Not because you will it into existence, but because you no longer contradict it with resistance. You are no longer a fractured signal. You are a unified field. Your emotions, your thoughts, your presence, they've begun to speak the same language. And that language hums with coherence. Not perfection, but peace. And here is what becomes most astonishing of all. The more still you become, the more movement happens around you. The more neutral your nervous system becomes, the more naturally aligned people, paths, and potentials begin to orbit your signal. You are no longer reaching. You are receiving. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The field hasn't delayed your desires. It has simply waited for your frequency to become clear enough to match them. Now it has. Now it does. And now the reflection begins. You feel it in the little things first. Synchronicities that arrive before the thought even finishes forming. A message you needed appearing on a page. A moment of grace when you thought you'd fall apart. A softness in your body that tells you something invisible has unclenched. These moments don't scream. They hum. They announce in quiet tones that you are no longer on the outside of your life. You're standing at its center. You've released the old compulsion to interpret every delay as a rejection. You've stopped reading silence as punishment. You've let go of the story that says only suffering brings worth. And in the space where that noise once echoed, there is now stillness, spaciousness, breath. You trust yourself now, not because you've become perfect, but because you've become loyal to your signal, loyal to your future, loyal to the version of you who always knew there was another way. And so, your reality begins to mirror that loyalty, not in spectacle, but in subtlety. You find yourself less reactive, more reflective. You listen differently. You speak less to defend and more to express. You move through uncertainty with the posture of someone who doesn't need all the answers, just the next step. and the next step keeps appearing. Even the hard days begin to feel different. Not lighter, necessarily, but less coated with threat. The discomfort no longer feels personal. It feels like weather, something passing, not defining. You hold it. You let it pass. You remain not because you have remembered something most forget, that your power is not in the reaction, it is in the observation. The moment you begin to see your inner world as the blueprint and your outer world as the echo, you stop begging for change and start broadcasting alignment. You are not commanding the universe. You are composing with it, not from noise, but from note dot, not from lack, but from tone dot, and the tone you're playing now is steady, soft, and unmistakably yours. You may even begin to laugh more, not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped demanding it to be. You find joy in the micro moments, in the way the light lands on the floor, in the pattern of the leaves, in the silence between questions. Life begins to feel not like a puzzle to be solved, but like a poem to be inhabited. You are not chasing alignment. You are becoming it. And the strange, beautiful side effect is this. People begin to feel it. Without explanation. They're drawn to you, not your mask, not your performance, but your signal. You don't have to teach them. You just have to be. You've become the permission slip for others to soften, to feel, to return to their own resonance. You've stopped selling the performance of progress. You are living the frequency of presence. This is how a quiet revolution begins. Not in the systems, not in the noise, but in the frequency of one person who dares to remain tuned when everyone else is reacting. One person who sees beauty before it's obvious. One person who chooses coherence in a culture built on chaos. You are that person. You are that signal. You are that stillness. And the world, whether it knows it or not, is adjusting itself around your signal. It cannot help but do so. The laws of energy are not swayed by mood or politics or preference. They are precise. And your alignment, quietly, is becoming the most precise thing you've ever known. You've stopped waiting to be rescued. You've remembered how to recalibrate. And now, your life reflects not your fears, but your fidelity. You move through the world like someone who's no longer willing to abandon themselves for approval, for familiarity, for urgency. You've dropped the identity of the struggler, the seeker, the skeptic. You've outgrown the loop. Not with resistance, but with reverence. You are no longer trying to manifest. You are making space for what already belongs to you. Are no longer arguing with what isn't. You are attuning to what is becoming. You are no longer reaching for signs. You are becoming the evidence. And all of this happens not because you followed a script, but because you remembered the rhythm dot, the rhythm of truth, the rhythm of trust, the rhythm of frequency as form dot. This is not the end of your journey dot. It is the stabilization of your signal. And in that stabilization, the next timeline, quiet, precise, and inevitable, begins to unfold. Let it. So now you sit here not at the end, but at the beginning of your own frequency. You're not waiting anymore. You're not rehearsing the past. You're quietly holding the signal of a life already aligned, already arriving. There is no need to fix or force, just to remain in the resonance of your remembering. Everything you seek has been listening. And now that your signal has steadied, it's coming closer. One moment at a time. One breath at a time. You don't need to chase it. You only need to stay loyal to the tone that feels like home. So let the old timelines dissolve without defense. Let the noise fade without explanation. Let your signal speak for itself. You are no longer becoming, you already are. And the field, ever faithful, is responding in kind. This isn't the end of the story. It's the calibration point from which your next life unfolds. Subscribe to our channel so we can meet again next time. Other stories are also waiting for you, soft thresholds of remembrance, just like this one.